It's December 2nd. It's cold outside. And I want to invite you on an Advent journey. This is the getting ready for the arrival of Jesus. And it's Christmas is coming. And so let's look for ourselves verse by verse through the story of Jesus. And I don't have a teaching prepped. I just, I've talked to some of you and you want to study the Bible more, but I just want to show you how I do it. We'll walk through these and we'll use some questions like, what is it saying? And what does it mean? And what should I do? Just to help kind of understand where we are. So this is Luke chapter 1, verse 8 through 13. And yesterday I looked at the verses right before it. So, catch up. So here we go. It says, now while he was serving as priest before God. Now, real quick question. This is a pronoun right here. Who are we talking about? I mean, you just got to back up a couple verses to know this is talking about a main character named Zechariah. Okay? So, now as Zechariah, and what do we know about Zech? We know he was a priest, we know kind of his family tree, and we know he was old and he had no kids. But he was a good dude, he was righteous. Okay. Now, while he was serving as priest before God, when his division was on duty, so he had to clock in, he had to clock out, right? According to the custom of the priesthood, he was chosen by lot to enter the temple of the Lord and burn incense. Okay, so just what is it saying? And I like to ask questions like who, what, where, when, why. So who are we talking about? We're talking about Zechariah. When is this going on? Broadly speaking, it's when Herod was in charge, but specifically, it was this time of year when his division was on duty, and there was a certain time of year when they would enter the temple and burn incense. And this is not just any day where you would burn incense. This is like a special day. If you want to know a little bit more about this event, go look up the Old Testament initiation of it. This is Exodus chapter 30. Exodus chapter 30, if you want to really know more about what's going on. So, he enters the temple of the Lord to burn incense. There's one other thing. What does it say? He was chosen by lot. Do you know what that means? You could say it's like drawing straws, or like saying pick a number between 1 and 50, or rolling the dice. Like this was kind of a random way of picking one person to be the main guy that would do this. This is pretty special. It says, and the whole multitude of the people were praying outside at the hour of incense. So he's inside doing this thing, doing business with the Lord, but it's kind of like on behalf of all the people. So that's kind of what it means. It means that they're all outside saying, God, help us with this. God, I'm sorry for this. God, will you please give us this blessing? God, will you save us in this way? They're offering, it's a multitude of people praying a multitude of prayers outside while he's inside. And you get this picture where he is burning incense. What happens when you burn something like a good smelling candle or whatever? The smoke kind of goes up, and this is the picture. It's a physical picture that these are our heart's desires. These are our prayers. These are our sins we're asking to be forgiven. And they go up. Symbolically, they go up to the Lord. So, that's what's happening right here. Take a look at verse 11. And there appeared to him an angel of the Lord. Now, we've got Zechariah, who's old. We've got the people outside. We've got a new character introduced, an angel of the Lord. And you have to ask yourself, do you have in your mind a picture of an angel of the Lord? Just like every literature tradition has different versions of these characters, what's the Bible picture of an angel of the Lord? Do you know? What is this like? Right? Obviously, we have angels with little chubby cheeks. We have angels on toilet paper. That's our culture's version of angels. Is that what's going on right here? Let's kind of pay attention to his reaction to kind of find out what this angel's like. Okay? So there appeared to him an angel of the Lord standing on the right side of the altar of incense. Remember, he's inside this temple. There's an altar. That's a place where you offer incense. And then there appears an angel. And Zechariah, let's just ask some natural questions. What would you do if an angel like poofed into existence? Like, what does Zechariah do? Zechariah was troubled when he saw him, and fear fell upon him. So what would you say is Zechariah's emotional reaction? What would you say is his emotional reaction to this angel? We're just trying to figure out what it says and what it means. And like, is this a normal thing that happens in the Bible? If you haven't read the Bible a lot, you might think this happens all the time. But here's a character who honestly is reacting very much the way I would, which is kind of like, ah! You know, he is like freaked out. That's how I would put it in my own words. What would you say? I don't know. Zechariah was troubled when he saw him, and fear fell upon him. Now here's an interesting thing. What is it like? Didn't Zechariah enter the temple of the Lord? Like, isn't this type of thing supposed to happen? Like supernatural, like angels and sort of magic. Like, isn't that what is supposed to happen? Like, and it seems like it's a pretty special event because there's a huge crowd of people outside. He's chosen by lot. It's sort of this random thing where he gets to be the one this year that comes in. And so you might expect that he would stroll in. Maybe this is what happens every year, right? You walk in, an angel of the Lord appears. But apparently, this is even more spectacular and special than what they normally expected. And what about you? When you pray, or when you visit a church, or when you open your Bible, to a certain extent, I think we hope to meet with the Lord. But in a more like everyday kind of like in the daily grind of things, like you can show up at church a lot of times without ever seeing an angel, right? You can read the scriptures a lot of times without ever hearing a voice kind of shocking your senses. And so I think that's what's going on right here. This is more spectacular than what he had expected. This is kind of, you know, he bit off more than he could chew. So here we go. I want to know what the angel is going to say. I want to know what the angel is going to do. Like, this is more special than they normally are used to. The angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah." Okay, so what is fear? Like, why do we get afraid? Like, why is Zechariah afraid? Probably he's startled. You know, it's more than he expected. But there's another reason for fear, right? Like, just think through the last time you were afraid. I don't mean somebody jumped out and said boo. I mean, think about the dread of, like, you know, taking a test, waiting for the grade to come back, or having screwed something up at home and like wondering if you're going to get found out, waiting for your parents to come home or whatever. You know, like there's another reason to be afraid, and that is like if you if you are afraid of punishment, you know, if you think, man, I've screwed things up and I'm gonna get what's coming to me. And the cool thing is, the angel just kind of puts this to rest. He says, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard." He's saying, I'm not here to punish you. I'm not here to rebuke you. I'm here because your prayer has been heard. Now, in this passage, it doesn't say that Zechariah is praying. It doesn't say that exactly. But if you rewind a little bit, it said there was one thing missing from Zechariah's life. Do you remember? Back before verse 8. Verse 7. But they had no child, because Elizabeth was barren. Both were advanced in years. There's one thing missing from Zechariah's life. He doesn't have a kid to pass on his name. He doesn't have a kid to take care of him in his old age. He doesn't have that tangible blessing from God. You know, he doesn't have it. And so there's always kind of this doubt, like, is God really good? Is he holding out on me? He says, your prayer has been heard, and your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall call his name John. Now, the angel has more to say. It's a lot to bite off in one day, so I just kind of stopped right there. And we want to hear the rest of the stuff the angel has to say, but there's a lot going on. So what does it say? It says, the angel spoke to him. He gave him a message. Your prayer's been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear a son. You shall call his name John. There's a lot going on here. Like, what does it mean? I mean, it means that our prayers are heard. That's pretty cool. It means that the longing of Zechariah's heart was not, that God wasn't deaf. God wasn't deaf to his desires. And God isn't deaf to your desires. But there's also a problem, right? There's a reason Elizabeth doesn't have a kid, right? She's old. So it's like making a promise that brings up a problem. It's like, well, okay, you say you're going to do this. You're going to give me a son. Thank you. I'm glad you're not deaf to my prayer. Thank you. I'm glad you're not here to judge me and rebuke me. But there's still this thing that seems impossible to overcome. And I'm not saying that every impossible thing in your life, I'm not saying you'll overcome all those things. I am saying that what we're faced with right now is it's a thing that only God can do. Like Zechariah and Elizabeth, the old couple, they get to participate. Like, you know how babies are made. So they get to participate, but it kind of requires believing in a dream, believing in a promise, believing in something they gave up on a long time ago. Maybe believing in a God that they had kind of given up on. Not like really given up on God, but given up on God actually hearing their prayers and actually making a difference in their life. So this is pretty exciting. It's a little bit shocking, right? How are old people going to have a kid? What's up with the name John? Like, why the name John? That's not Zechariah's name. You'd probably call him Zechariah Jr. It also feels like it's very, very, very personal at first. It's like, wow, this is a one-on-one conversation. It's very, very personal. But what else could it mean? Like, there's also this personal thing that Zechariah is doing where he is burning incense. This thing is a one man burning incense talking to God, but it is representing the whole people, right? And so I think it would be wise for us to consider, like, is this answer to prayer the same kind of deal? It looks like it's this very personal thing. It's a blessing for good old Zechariah, but maybe it's also bigger than Zechariah and Elizabeth. Maybe it's bigger than them just getting a little baby. I think let's sort of keep our eyes peeled for that theme as well, that this is bigger than John, the baby, and we'll kind of unpack, like, what does it mean? What's it pointing to? What should we be on the lookout moving forward? So those are kinds of, what does it say? What does it mean? And then what should I do? Like, one of the thoughts that comes to my mind is this idea of praying, pray with endurance. So prayer isn't a magic set, like a set of spells that if you get it right, like Harry Potter, then you can make things fly or disappear. Prayer is a conversation with God, and just like you would not give up on a person that you really cared about, prayer is about not giving up on God. And sort of not giving up on your dreams, although as you grow up, some of the dreams you had when you were 9 years old are dreams that you have grown out of. You didn't give up on them, you just grew out of them. And so this is one of those things where, Zechariah didn't get this prayer answered until it was impossible. Like, he can't have a kid now. And so, but it doesn't say that he gave up praying. It doesn't say he gave up on God. I mean, he didn't walk away from the church. He didn't say, you know what, guys, pick someone else to go offer incense in the temple. I've been talking to God about a kid, and he's not listening to me, so pick someone else. He didn't have that kind of victim mentality that said, well, things aren't going the way I would have written the plan. My story isn't panning out the way I would have written, so I give up on God. Like, that's a pretty selfish and kind of limited view of God. And so I would just say, don't give up on God. Don't give up on your dreams, although just be prepared for God to give you an answer that is a little bit different than the way you would have written it.